Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45. Then I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, folks. How's everybody? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. And if you ended up over at the Toronto Sportsman Show, hoping that it was everything that you hoped it was going to be. I know Thursday, I'm talking to some of the vendors that were there. They said, holy smokes, they've never seen a Thursday that busy before. So very cool to hear that. It's not often you hear a Thursday of a show being that busy, but good on the Sportsman Show. Not many announcements tonight. It is going to be well, I don't think a quick show by any means. We've got Big Jim coming up here talking about the Toronto Sportsman Show and, of course, the journey that he will be on midweek to receive his coveted induction into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. That's going to be quite an honor, very epic for our good buddy Jim. Of course, Lawrence will be here talking about invasive species. We did do a post where if you perform and participate in the survey, there's a chance that you could be entered in and a chance to win a really cool prize. So have a look at the Facebook page. And, of course, Jason Barnucz will be around to talk about the show, but more so than that, which is really interesting, and I've been wanting to get back to it, of course, is we have found some, I don't want to say firsthand information, but we've learned a little bit more about that potential Canadian smallmouth record bass. So we're going to learn a little bit about its age and how close folks were to guessing the right age. There's a few of you that guessed pretty darn close, if I remember correctly. So stay tuned to that. Manny's in the house. Nice to see you. Steve Shaw's here as well. And, of course, one thing that I can't emphasize enough, with things starting to slow down a little bit, certain species are going to be opening back up. But, for instance, out in Saskatchewan, they pretty much have a hard close during a certain period of time. So we're always looking for content. So if you have something that's interesting, please go to the Canadian Fishing Network Facebook page, go to the message section, push message, and there you will be able to submit a picture. You'll be able to submit a small video or anything else that you want to have featured. And, of course, our good buddy Steve and Walt will be all over it as they always are. And, again, can't thank those two enough for all they do. Trevor Barnucz is in the house. Good to see you, Trevor. It was awesome to see you and, of course, your entire family. And a big shout-out to Steph. I wasn't going to forget it a second time. But, Steph, I went down and I met her at the show. And she managed to put one of these CFN bracelets together for me. Honored to have it. And if you're looking for one yourself, Steph is willing to put it together for you, as this is a new business enterprise for her. And being a young lady as she is, she's entering into the business world. This is her first crack at it, I believe, anyway. Very entrepreneurial she is. And if, as I say, if you are interested in the CFN bracelet, please contact Steph Barnucz. She will do it up for you. and we'll do it up nice. These are beautiful bracelets. So thanks, Steph. It was your birthday on the weekend. Happy birthday to you. Happy Monday indeed, Joe Moore. How you doing, my friend? Clausen's in the house. Eve Bazinet is here. Nice to see you. Jeanette's here. Lloyd, thanks for all your sharing. Bob Bissonette as well. Corey, you know what? We would never miss you on a live, but we thank you for joining us as you do each and every Monday from way out in Oregon. I think that's so awesome to have you with us every week like you are. Big Kevin, how you doing, Kevin? Nice to see you, my friend. Ken Kowal. Is that did I pronounce that right? Ken Kowal? I hope so. Anyway, it's nice to have you as well. Nice to see you. Steve's here. Nice to see you, my friend. It's been a while. Mark Wolf's in the house. Nice to see you. Thanks for doing that post, by the way, for Pal Cassie's. That was a huge. We, at the end of the day, we love pumping the tires of our sponsors, as generous as they are and all that they do. Can't thank you enough for that. Mike Howard's in the house. Hope you're feeling better, buddy. Richard Dunlop, thank you as well for all your incredible sharing. Means all the world. And of course, Sparkus is with us as well. Nice to see you, my friend. As I said, not much to talk about in regards to announcements, just some kind of important announcements that we need to go back over. Again, the Winter Fish Fest is over. Big shout out to Ugly Boys, Bates, Meigs, Pal Castings, North Shore, and of course, Manny, who managed to win the Camp McIntosh Grand Prize giveaway. Big shout out to Manny, who took that home. But again, we can't thank all of our sponsors and supporters enough. The prizes are almost all out and dished up. We still need to get a few addresses from the winners from last week. But if you've received yours, please do what Mark Wolf did. Again, we can't thank our folks, our generous partners enough who help us and reward our community. I mean, as I said, it's all about giving it back, and you as the community benefit big time from that. So again, thanks to all of our judges, Big Mike Consul, or I should say Little Mike Consul, depending on, but big in terms of his efforts. Yet another unbelievably successful Winter Fish Fest. Managed just shy of 5,000 entries, or was it just over 5,100? I'm not sure, but around 55,000 entries. So to say the least, we hit a benchmark that would be hard to duplicate. But needless to say, we'll try again next year. But stay tuned to the CFN Spring Fish Off, as is always every year. Make sure to register. My Catch. We will be doing a Facebook component as well. Mike and I will explain that in the coming months, but it's right around the corner. Like literally, it's a month, maybe 2 months away. So stay tuned to that. Fish Off, of course, we'll be collecting prizes. We have prizes from Shimano, who is going to be our main sponsor of the spring edition. So a big shout out to them, and a big shout out, thank you to them for all they do and continue to do for our CFN community. Also, the OFC Nation charity tournament is going to be on in May. Moose will be on here later on to discuss it and a few other things, including CanCast, which is coming up next. That's the big show next on April 2nd. Moose will be here to talk about that as well. So to get to some CFN announcements, of course, the Muskie Odyssey show is March 25th. To anyone who enjoys catching muskie, targeting muskie, by all means, I invite you to go to this show in Oshawa. It is at the Tribute Community Center. And look at the panel. Like, the panel is just loaded with, those in the know when it comes to muskie. So March 25th in Oshawa is yet another edition of Muskie Odyssey put on by Muskies Canada. Can't thank them enough for all their support to our community. Second last but not least, of course, it is the 5th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. I know Doris and Warren are looking forward to seeing a few more bums, in beds. So if you are interested, you're kicking tires, you're not sure, by all means, reach out to Horwood Lake Lodge. Doris and Warren will gladly answer any of your calls. Again, can't thank those enough, like Richard Dunlop, for all the sharing that you're doing to try and promote this event. As I said, we are half full as it is right now. We'd love to fill that other half up, but I'm sure we're going to do so in the coming weeks and months. But again, that is August 14th to the 19th, and it shall be yet another fantastic adventure for our CFN community. And last but not least, when it comes to announcements, our beloved Camp McIntosh, can't thank these folks enough. Andre and Tracy are incredible hosts. Without them, CFN just wouldn't be the same. And if you are interested in joining us between September 22nd and the 24th of this year, please reach out. There's the number. Call Tracy Dupuis at Camp McIntosh. She is looking to book rooms. We are about half, I think we're half full with that one as well. So if you're interested in coming to the second annual OFC Nation retreat, please join us. We're looking forward to seeing you there because we had a fantastic time last year. And one sale announcement that I have for the CanCast show. This is from our good friends over at True North Baits. These are some of the things that you can look forward to at the show. As I said, we will be doing a lot more production leading up to it and promotion in regards to the show and everything that you can look forward to. But as I said, before Moose comes on, we have a little video we're going to be showing you for that. But as I said, it's going to be a fantastic show. There's not going to be the issues with lineups, and everybody's concerned about what happened last year. That's not going to happen this year. I don't know how to emphasize that enough. Our buddy Kyle, Sean, Mark, they are doing a fantastic job putting this show together. And there's, as I said, there's two venues. You've got the building that we were in last year, of course, the main rink. As soon as the show was over last year, Kyle walked over there, put a deposit on it, and we have the two venues. So there might be a little bit of a lineup leading up to the open of the show, but after it's open, there'll be no lineups whatsoever. So whether it's sunny out or it's pouring rain, you will get in there pretty lickety split. So again, Moose will be by later on to talk about that. So that's it for announcements. I would say it's time to talk to our good buddy, Big Jim, right after a word from our sponsor. The one and only Big Jim McLaughlin.
Yo.
Look at the Horwood shirt. Oh, blessed you, my friend. Blessed is you. Wow. Horwood Lake Lodge. Never looked so good, my friend. Never looked so good. Jim, you have to tell us, bud, for being, this long-standing public figure and, historically a staple in a lot of the fishing shows. Is it the same as it always has been for you, or is every show new and exciting?
Well, no, exactly. I still love it. I know it really bothers me that I can't put on 20,000 steps a day like I used to. Being everywhere in the show and saying hi to everybody and that kind of stuff. But I had a wonderful time there this week. I was in the building for 5-6 hours every day, and it just it never gets stale. It never gets stale. When people want to come and shake your hand and talk to you and ask you questions and come listen to your seminars and talk to you after and that kind of thing, I'm there. It's just all there is to it.
That's awesome. But you know what?
That show was really good. The interest really, I was surprised at how good it was. Like how many people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I sit and I watch. It's hard to tell how sales really were because it's when you're up on the tank, like I haven't been going on the tank. I've been working from the stage. But you get up on that tank, you see everybody. It's like you look out over it. You see all the rods if rods are being carried. But I did notice one thing. A lot of people were carrying bags.
Oh, that's good.
A lot of people carrying bags. So, and a lot of the guys were smiling and happy and saying they're coming back next year. So, it's all good. It's what it is, and it's not always just about sales at those shows.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people there that are looking just to have their name out there.
100%. And
It's
really,
like
at
an
the end of the day,
advertising.
all a show can guarantee is foot traffic. And for what I heard Thursday, which is typically, I would say, a slower day, all of the vendors I spoke to, and there was quite a few of them on Thursday night, they all said, Scotty, I have never seen a Thursday like that since
Yeah,
I've
pretty busy. No doubt about it. They came in right off the bat too. That was the cool thing.
Yeah.
Friday morning, you didn't have the lineups outside. Saturday, well, there was lineups, but not like they were on Thursday. And of course, Friday was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And then, Saturday was decent. And, I don't know what was on Sunday because I was gone Saturday evening.
Right.
But I'm assuming Sunday was good too because I saw a lot of people thanking the show, for whatever and happy, and the guys packing up and all smiling and out having something to eat after and everything. And so it's always good, it's what you make it.
Oh, 100%.
It's what you make it. I know people come to the show, they stay for 25 minutes and they leave and they say, well, walk around, see the whole show. There's so many things to do there. It's crazy.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it is, Mike. You said it right there. That's what I was saying.
Get arses in the door, and hopefully the rest sort of figures itself out. Jim, of this show in particular, obviously foot traffic and busyness was one takeaway. They had some interesting presenters, to say the least. The Outdoor Canada stage looked like it was just loaded, from what Jay was saying as well. But was there a takeaway that you truly thought was special or was interesting that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's one little thing that happened on Saturday, and I had a guy come up to me, and this is going to echo to Ottawa to you. I had a guy come up to me and tell me, he said, my son wanted to come and say hi to you because, like, when he was like 9 years old, you gave him a rod and reel, and the kid now looks like I'd have a hard time getting him on the ground when I was 20. Great, big, strong, big boy and everything else. And he just wanted to come say thanks. And he was really shy and everything else, and wanted his picture taken with me and everything. It was cool. And just, I gave the kid an entry-level rod and reel, like many, many, many moons ago, because he still has it. He said, I got lots of rods and reels now, but, the kid fishes because of that. And that's the kind of things that I really like to see. It's what makes it all worthwhile.
Well, dude, when you say all worthwhile, now that we could say we can put so, like, is the show season for you now closed, Jim?
Yeah, pretty well. I'll be at Gagnon's 2 weeks from now. I'll be there Friday evening and Saturday for most of the day tying jigs, as I've done for 25 years at the sale. And then Saturday afternoon, I'll find my way up to Peterborough, go to CanCast on the Sunday, and then I have a good bit of time.
That's awesome. Well,
I have a ton of things to do. We have to put the spring issue out. I have to tie like 14.7 million jigs and everything else. But we'll get to it all in time.
Well, Jim, as you said, the one thing I will say is your work is certainly not gone unnoticed. Unless you've been living under a rock, Jim had a huge announcement for us a couple weeks back. And we're honored, and we're going to be able to share in his journey down to Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, to be more specific, where he is going to be inducted as part of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, first Canadian ever. Jim, again, has it sunk in for you? Are you on pins and needles?
It's like this.
Yeah.
Like I had it. Like, it was really funny because all the grief we had with the dog last night, I got into bed at 5:30 this morning. That's usually when I'm getting up. I slept for an hour and I woke up and I got that big shit-eating grin on my face again when I thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's a good feeling, and it'll be there for a long time. And I got to say something, Scotty. I'm totally touched at you offering to drive me down and everything and be there and help me. Because I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago or something. Like, I don't know if I would have made it if I had to go in a wheelchair through an airport. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm just not ready for it. I'm because that to me is what I'm saying. I'm beat, and I'm not beat yet. I'm not beat. I'm getting a beaten, but I'm not beat yet. Nobody's going down. That was never my style.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I think whether it's me or anybody else in our community, at the end of the day, I think I represent everyone who you have touched, somehow helped, provided a great day on the water, a rod and reel that, when you were 9 years old, you still remember. There's not too many people in the Ontario Christian community that you have not touched or helped in some way. And as I said, dude, I'm just honored to be a part of it. I never thought this was going to be as big of a deal as it was. So to say that I'm speechless is
It's gonna be a hoot, buddy.
I'm looking forward to it, bud.
What the really cool thing is that after we're done with the 4 to 6 thing, at the Bassmaster Classic reception, we get to go out with all the guys from Shimano. They're having an evening for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just the award; it's also 40 years with Shimano. So it's pretty cool. Another thing too, it's also 40 years with my wife. This was my 40th wedding anniversary. So, that was a couple of good things happened that year.
A couple, holy smokes, man! The planets were aligned. Have they been aligned since, Jim? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think I got to read something to you. I got to read something to you here, quick.
Okay.
Oh, geez. I can't even remember my password. Well, apparently I'm not senile yet. I got it. Tammy told me she wants me to get facial recognition, so when I forget the numbers, I'm good. I said, I'll probably be picking my nose and it won't recognize.
Exactly.
She burst out. You don't know what it's like. For her to last 40 years with me, because you never know what's happening, eh? Like the shit that I've done, and I don't mean bad stuff. Well,
Yeah.
A little bit. Not nothing really, really bad, but no. I got to go here, and
You're not
I
the
got to
only
read this. This was somebody posted this on my post about it. How I was excited that it was only a week away, and it says, "Happy to have been part of your journey, Jim. I had to make a lot of decisions over the years on behalf of Shimano Canada. None I am more proud of than inviting you to our team and you accepting. Your hard work, loyalty, and integrity has benefited the entire Shimano team for decades. All I can say is thank you for being you." And that coming from Tom Brook, who's the retired vice president of Shimano, this is perhaps more rewarding than actually going down and getting there.
Wow.
I hope you can understand that.
I totally understand that. And for anybody who,
But I'm telling you right now, don't try to get whatever they plaque or whatever they give me. Don't try to get it out of my hands. I will defend it vigorously.
and Heather,
So he told me that at Bass Pro Shops, the people that make the Heisman Trophy are actually making the trophy that will be at Bass Pro Shops with my picture beside it.
wow.
So now I know I have to make a road trip with Tammy. I have to make a road trip and go to Bass Pro Shops in Nashville and go in and stand beside that and cry and get my picture taken with it. I'll have to do that.
No issues there, Jim, and we'll totally understand.
So you're going to be driving the game.
No problem, buddy.
I do pay for gas too.
I'll do it. Heather, you're so right. I do remember back when I sort of first came back, and I know you were one of the very first people that I spoke to. Heather was also one. And unfortunately, we had a mutual friend pass in Glen Barnucz recently. So, of course, we've been sharing some notes behind the scenes. But needless to say, Heather, you're 100% right. And I will say this on live. Heather, when she did, and she gave me some great advice, she said, if you're going to model yourself, and she was one of many, if you're going to model yourself after anybody in this industry, make sure it's Big Jim McLaughlin, because he deserves it. And 100%, Heather, what he's done for small kids, female groups, ladies groups, male groups, and
CFN.
CFN. We honestly can't thank you enough. But the spring issues is coming up. Is there any interesting things that we should be looking for the spring issue?
Well, you'll have some crappy stuff in there. That's crappy with IE, not Y. And it sort of got pushed back. We weren't I shouldn't say pushed back. It's just gotten behind.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize I was going to be out 5 out of 6 weekends, and then this came up this weekend. Otherwise, I'd be tooth and nail at everything right now.
Yeah.
And I was scatterbrained yesterday and today, of course, with the dog and everything. So it's just, I just said to Tammy, I said, look, I'll be back Saturday night, and we'll take care of it all when I get back.
That's it, 100%. Looking forward to it, Jim. Listen, we're going to let you go a little bit early.
Sure.
You've been busy with the shows, and you need to get your rest. So
got to do my laundry.
And do your laundry, get packed, get ready. But we will see you shortly on Wednesday morning. What time do we going to be leaving Wednesday morning?
I don't know. I'll head over to your house probably at 4-ish.
But I figured, see, I said that to Lawrence. I said, no one, Jim, he doesn't sleep past 4 o'clock, so I guarantee 4
Well,
will be on the road.
You said you're only a few minutes away from the hotel, so it's perfect. And then we can take our time getting there.
Yeah.
It says 10 and a half hours from your door. So if we leave at 4, we should be there well before dinner. We'll get checked in the hotel. We'll go down, see how much room service we can run up, and take it from there.
Right on, buddy. Well, looking forward to it, my friend. Get some sleep.
I will.
We look forward to seeing you. And I'll tell you, this is exciting times.
It's going to be a hoot, buddy.
All the best, buddy. All right. Lawrence is up next, right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther's in the house. How we doing, Lawrence?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
Oh, fantastic, man. Fantastic.
Good.
It's, you know what, I will say it is the end. The Toronto Sportsman Show is kind of like the pinnacle, right? We have CanCast, which is, sort of the last of the anchor length, if you will. Always look forward to CanCast, and Moose is lucky enough to be joining us in the lobby behind the scenes, and we're going to be talking to him real soon about some of the details, which Kyle kind of shared to me as well. But I will say this, it is a busy season, the fishing shows. And, you've been doing it for a number of years as well. But can you imagine doing it for 40 years?
40 years. It's, no wonder Big Jim doesn't do a whole lot of ice fishing, because it really cuts into your ice fishing. February is a write-off, right? January, you get the Toronto International Boat Show. That's 10 days. And don't forget, the Muskie Odyssey's coming up in a week. That's a one-day show, but people line up at midnight to get in there when the doors open at 5 a.m.
We were talking about that, the folks over at Muskie's Canada, Lisa, John Anderson, there's such a following when it comes to the muskie anglers. Muskie's Canada has really built a fantastic following that leading up to these shows, there's an expectation, there's a buzz in the air. And not that I profess to even know what the buzz is all about, but Hose Baits certainly has done a fantastic job building that.
The bait builders at that show are numerous, and people come. I think on average, people spend $700 to get on average per person on baits. Like, they come in with serious money. I don't want to belittle the thing, but I'm telling you, if you took off the baseball caps and put on little train hats, train conductor hats, it'd be like a train convention. These people are serious into collecting baits, swapping baits, reselling baits. It's a huge passion for them. They love fishing, but they love collecting the baits just as much.
Well, our good friends over at Thirsty Lures, as well as Handlebars, looking forward to them having a great show. But as I said, the Muskie community is a remarkable community. They do an awful lot of work, Muskie's Canada especially, and to all their different chapters. Big salute to them. So this is their stage, and hopefully some of us CFNers are able to make it over there. Just pump their tires and show their support, because as I said, we're all anglers, no matter what fish we're targeting. We're all anglers at heart, so we're supporting each other. We're good.
Yeah, great presenters and beautiful lures. Like, so many beautiful lures to look at, and they're the best of the best of the lures are there, and the best bait builders are there. It's absolutely incredible. You just want to walk around. It's like you're a kid in a candy shop. Really, it's absolutely amazing.
Well, you talk about collecting. I dare say I would be a collector of musky baits, and simply because after spending, you know, $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 on a bait, I'd be a little apprehensive to throw it. It's got to go in a trophy case somewhere, because I
swear to God,
with my luck, I would end up in a tree, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But listen, speaking of mess, let's talk about invasive species. And we did share a link today in regards to the folks over, I believe, that are involved in carps, and they have a survey that they're asking you to fill out. So any participation in that survey signs you up and makes you eligible for a giveaway that they're doing. But you have a little bit more news to share.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You know, they want to know, it's about collecting data, right? We're the knowledge keepers. We're the local experts. We have local knowledge, and that's super valuable for any researcher who wants to do research on invasive species. What's happening out there? Are there fish out there? Or, is it changing? So, it's not just about preventing, the initial invasion of an invasive species. That's the first thing. But then there's a whole bunch of other steps that anglers need to be involved with, and we really need to step up, because we know now that anglers are actually moving invasive species around. So we accept that. The science is out. It's accepted knowledge. New regulations are being put out there now with live bait and cleaning your boat before you move it around and things like that. So we understand that this is an issue. But here's some things, anglers could be doing. So preventing the introduction is the first thing. But stopping the spread, like, we have all sorts of interesting knowledge on how to stop the spread, and we need to share that knowledge. We need to practice those skills, right? Monitoring and reporting invasive species, as there's a whole bunch of places to report now. The survey's one, but there's all sorts of online tools we can use to report and monitor what's going on. So if you see something, happening, document that and get it known.
100%.
Educate the public about what are invasive species, especially people who have aquariums, right? Who want to let those aquarium pets go because maybe they're tired of the aquarium. And, it's just a scourge of goldfish being around every city now in Canada. There's a scourge of goldfish in settling ponds. And there's even, believe it or not, Trout Lake up in North Bay has goldfish in it. And that's a cold lake up in North Bay, right? It's a huge, deep, cold lake, and it's got a goldfish population.
Wow, didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, so this isn't just a little warm pond fish. These things can live anywhere.
And at the end of the day, as you said, the rules have changed. So if you own a boat, you have to get into the habit. If you don't already, pull your plug. Make sure everything's empty. All your water isn't splashing as you're driving away from the ramp. The other thing is, of course, any seaweed, any vegetation, wood, or anything that you could possibly transport on the trailer or in the boat that would be wet from the body of water in which the boat was in has to be removed and left on site. So these are all things that not only are good and ethical, they're actually the law now.
Yeah. Teaching anglers what to look out for. Like, if there's certain types of invasive species in certain waters, there's gobies in those waters or zebra mussels, spread the word, let people know. You got to be super vigilant on this boat launch, because there are zebra mussels out there, and you might not know it, but there are gobies in this water body. So don't take bait. Be careful, not to mix those in with your bait fish. Don't be tempted to add them to your bait bucket.
Right. This is interesting. I'm glad, Lloyd, that you brought this up, because there has been a lot of videos floating around in regards to some interesting, I don't know necessarily if they're invasive, but definitely some interesting creatures that are being found in the gills, the skin, under the scales of fish. But is it known yet that some of these invasive species are actually attaching themselves to fish and being transported that way?
Well, I got a report, and I was going to bring it up later, but I'll talk about it now. They actually caught a small minnow with a small zebra mussel larvae that had attached itself to the gill of this small minnow. So there you go. This is just a typical bait minnow. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't see it with your naked eye easily. You wouldn't think nothing about that. It's just this little larvae. But if you took that and let that go in another body of water, there you go. Not one larvae means an invasion, but if it keeps happening, right? If it keeps happening, then you'll have an invasion. So this little things can add up to a big problem down the road. You really have to watch out for this stuff. And that's why Quebec banned, live bait, even dead bait, anywhere in Quebec, right? So, we're not that restrictive. We just don't want it moving around in different zones. But even within a zone, you have to be careful from one lake to another.
Yeah, and we let's face it. I think inevitably we're going to be going down that road, especially if we do not heed the warnings and follow the laws. That we are we have a responsibility as anglers, as boaters. If we don't follow them, I can see them clamping down in a huge way, because the last thing we want to do is start infiltrating our inland lakes.
And then those people take it on to other lakes, right? People who live at those lakes outside the cities, they move further out to get away from us, the urbanite guys, or invade their lakes, and then they move them out to the rural areas, the real rural areas. So working with scientists is another thing. Then there's one more after that. Working with scientists, like that survey, this is so important. You guys don't just say, oh, someone else will call 911. We all need to step up and share our knowledge. It's so valuable to these researchers to understand what's happening out there.
Yeah, 100%.
And the last thing is, when you have a chance to work with government and provide some input for policy, for regulations, when those FM meetings are being held and this is on the agenda, step up to the plate and talk about it. Talk about your concerns. Talk about what you see, what's happening out there. Perch populations dropping off because of gobies eating the regs, or rusty crawdads, mowing down the weed beds. Talk about what you're seeing. Otherwise, they're not going to know. These are people that spend most of their time in white towers, right? Ivory towers. They don't get out necessarily fishing. They don't know what's happening in nature. So it's up to us.
It is.
There you go. That's my list of things for people to do, anglers to do, to our role in keeping nature natural.
Yeah, and as Steve has mentioned as well, you're 100% right, Steve. Glad you put these snippets up. Not just boats, live wells, obviously. Heard discussions on children's sand pails and toys used on beaches that contribute to the spread. I think if you're in a body of water, the best thing to do is to not jump from body of water to body of water. Dry everything out thoroughly. Some will suggest it takes 72 hours. Some suggest it takes a 5-day work week, or perhaps an entire week. To me, there's no length of time that's too long if we are trying to spread or stop the spread of invasive species. But
pressure washers, sunlight, these are things that can do a great job. A lot of sunlight, 2 or 3 days of sunlight, really dry it out and let the UV cook everything to death. And if you don't have time, if you're going the next day, get a pressure washer out there and really give your boat and trailer good hosing down to make sure when you get back home, if you're concerned at all.
100%. Some things like kayaks, Heather's bringing up here, kayaks and canoes too. Yep, 100%. If we're airing them out on the way home, great. It's best to leave them in the backyard for at least, what do you figure? I mean, I know the theory's out in terms of how long, but I've heard 72 hours is pretty much the minimum.
Yeah, 3 to 5 days in the sun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely in the sun. We definitely want to cook. Big problem. Well, that's a great question, Richard. I don't know if bass tournaments are necessarily a big problem, but if they could potentially become one, they're usually going from lake to lake, week to week. You do have your odd back-to-back tournament, but it is something to be conscious of, that some tournaments are probably going to have to instruct their anglers and participants on the safe ethics of removing boats and transporting boats and water. The biggest thing is water, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and weeds. When talk about invasive weeds, bass boats are fishing in the weeds. They're chopping the stuff up with their electric trolling motors. They're dispersing that quite often. That can disperse these things to float across the lake, maybe get into a river, move down the river. So if it's an invasive weed bed of invasive weeds, don't go through there with your trolling motor. Go around it. Don't chop it all up so it can set it free. And I know, like, sometimes guys like to say, hey, look, I was fishing the weeds all day. Look at the front of my boat, and it's just a big beard of weeds on the front deck of their boat. That's not cool anymore, right? We don't want to be hauling this stuff around and moving it around so much. So we really bass anglers fish in the weeds, so it's really important that we not disturb that too much or move it around too much.
100%. George is talking about an invasive species question on the open water creel survey on Simcoe and Nipissing. I would imagine, as George says, or just fish coochie. has a solution for everything.
Good one.
If there is a war imminent, just go fishing at Cooch. Everything will go away. Everything will be just fine. No, if you are ever moving your boat trailer between lakes, care should always be taken to make sure invasive species are not transferred. 100%, Jay. Couldn't emphasize that point enough. Now, on to some bigger and better, I would say news, but needless to say, you have been busy. You have collected a wealth of information that you are about to share with us. Where on earth could we start first, Lawrence?
Well, I got a few things, so let's talk into the news. The bluefish news just came out today, March 20th. It's up there on bluefishcanada.ca. You can find the latest news there with all the links and the editorial, and a link to a podcast I did with the program director for the Invasive Species Center, Jenna White. So she had some pretty interesting information. One thing Jenna mentioned, and I thought I was startled by this, that invasive species are the second most threatening issue out there in terms of upsetting our ecosystems. The second worst thing, the biggest threat out there in the environment is invasive species. You know what the first thing is?
I want to say pollution.
It's biodiversity loss. It's the loss of biodiversity, the loss of different species that's happening in Canada, around the world. That's the first thing. And then invasive species is the second thing. And I said, where does climate change and all that fit in? She goes, well, she thinks it's in the top 5 somewhere, but invasive species are more of a threat to our ecosystems than climate change.
Wow.
Yeah. That's that. Put it in perspective. There you go.
And you know what? At the end of the day, I hate to say it, but we need to do a better job educating our new Canadians. I see a lot of them at these pet stores.
Yeah.
Are we sending out brochures? Is there anything on the doors as they walk out? Is there something on their sales receipt? Are they instructed by those who work that at the end of the day, please do not dump these down, any kind of storm drain or sanitation drain or any kind of waterway that is, man-made. At the end of the day, that's the message that we truly got to get across, because these goldfish, they're going to continue to show up in these water management ponds.
3-4 pounds. They 100%. Get to be 3-4 pounds. It just blows your mind. There was a water reservoir just outside Toronto. They found 20,000 of them in there. 20,000 goldfish. Unbelievable. That's bonkers. But I deal with an aquarium. We have an aquarium just outside there, and if we get a fish and we don't like it, it's not that social, it's beating up on the other fish, we bring it back to the aquarium shop and they buy it back. They don't even care if we bought it from them. They just buy fish back and they'll find another home for it. So if you're going to have an aquarium, work with an aquarium pet dealer that has that program where they buy fish back and recycle them. It's so nice that you can bring a fish. You pay $5-10 for it. They give you half of your money back and find it a new home. So it's cool.
Wow! If only the folks down in Florida did that with their snakes, as opposed to letting them go into the Everglades. That's another story for another time.
All right, what else we got here? Okay, so Invasive Species Center, if you want more information on programs, and look, you guys, if you have a club, you have an organization, you want to do something locally to pull out some invasive plants, to teach a program, you can get some microfinancing from the Invasive Species Center. They have small grants right now that you can apply for, $1,000 kind of thing. You can buy some literature, you can get some stuff printed up, you can put an interesting day together for the kids. Maybe it's a campground, maybe it's a Boy Scout troop. You can get a bit of money and you can do a program and teach them what we're talking about. And they have all the information there, identification, it's all there on the Invasive Species Center. This is a tremendous resource.
Yeah, and absolutely. So we need to do our part, and first and foremost, we need to be educated about where invasive species are, where the hazards are, so that we can be better prepared for when that time comes, that we're either launching a boat, taking a boat out, and transporting it across land.
I see. I got something else here for you.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So Fishbrain released a report about the Great Lakes and invasive species and Asian carp. And they say, I read through the report, And they're saying that there has been some grass carp captured in Lake Erie and some of the tributaries to Lake Erie, and a few, I think 9 in total, and a few of them have been females and females that have been capable of reproduction. But there's no evidence yet that there is a reproduction sort of colony of grass carp in Lake Erie at this point. They've caught some solo fish here and there that have been captured, and they may be solo fish, not shacking up kind of thing.
Mhm.
So as far as the other 3 species, the black, the big head, and the shine and the silver, no evidence of those carp in the Great Lakes either having established populations. So that's some good news, that we can take a little bit of comfort in that, but let's hopefully that will last.
Well, and that's just for now. Let's revel in that kind of news for now. But at the end of the day, we can't take our guard down. And more so than that, I keep hearing there are reports of bull sharks showing up in the north reaches of the Mississippi River. So again, we have to be on guard for those, pesky bullshit. No, I'm just kidding. But I did see something that they are starting to swim a lot further north into the rivers than they were first recorded to. So there is a little bit of truth to it, but not exactly the Great Lakes. Now,
okay, last thing.
Klassen has a question here, and I don't know if I can answer this. I'll ask if you can answer it. Is smallmouth bass the number 1 invasive species in Canada?
Probably not. I think the rainbow trout would be. Rainbow trout are not native anywhere except for maybe a very small part of the Rocky Mountains. But otherwise, they were proliferated through the Rocky Mountains in the late 1800s to give a food source for all the gold miners that went into the Rocky Mountains. People looking for the following the gold rushes up in there, and they needed something to eat. And rainbow trout are prolific. They're hardy. They grow fast. So they just sprinkled them all throughout the Rocky Mountains. Now they're in the Great Lakes. They're in ponds everywhere. They're popular fish just because they're so damn robust. But they also outcompete other native fish species, right? Brown trout are not native in North America. Neither are brook trout. So these are all sort of species that have been spread around in the last 100 years or so. I think, that damage has been done. Some of it's being reversed now. A lot of rainbow trout are being removed from areas where there's cutthroat, because those cutthroat have been overwhelmed and they want the native cutthroat to recover. So that's happening. But for sure, the smallmouth bass, the speed they're moving from lake to lake to lake is just shocking. And it's all white bucket, brigade, right? So they are probably the number 1 fastest moving invasive species with respects to, the larger sport fish.
Interesting. Well, I didn't know that about rainbow trout. Everything you say, dude, you bring up stuff like this, and it's just, sprinkle of salt, and it's a mic drop. Good for you. I would never have known. Jay is sharing a great link as well, Goldfish Gone Wild.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume they're not at raves and dressed up in tie. We're talking about actual fish.
Goldfish on cocaine? Is that what this is going?
Yeah, this is a family show, so I'm going to assume that there's going to be huge schools showing up in that. But that's an interesting podcast, and again, it's no laughing matter. At the end of the day, goldfish are becoming an issue. Anybody that has fished the Hamilton Harbor sees it. Yeah. Even some of the tribs on the north shore of Lake Ontario, they see it. Yeah. I don't know about inland, but you're saying that they've been showing up as far north as Trout Lake. So
yeah, any sort of reservoirs, sort of runoff ponds, retention ponds around urban centers, that seems to be a popular place for people to release their aquarium pets. So they're just gold. Sometimes people look in and they're just a golden glow in these ponds, and they think, what is that? And then they look closer and they realize it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of goldfish.
Sean Quinn asks a great question that I know we've talked about before, but at what point do we call a non-native species? So for instance, smallmouth bass, they were, invasive to a number of bodies of water, but how long does it become known as just like the evolution of a species? So yes, it's introduced. Yes, it might be invasive, but at some period of time, as time goes on, now all of a sudden they're considered not necessarily native, but at least resident fish.
Or non-native. They're non-native resident fish. Yeah. And that's sort of what muskie and smallmouth bass have, not all the smallmouth bass out east have been shunned. I mean, there's a big call happening on the Miramichi trying to get them out of that watershed. But there's other bodies of water where people love them, and so they're accepted. The same as muskie. They're not resident, but they're quite popular in the St. John River. So they're non-native species, but they're very well beloved. And when people try to, turn against them and, introduce some sort of call, there's a lot of people who come to their defense. But I'll tell you, there's been culling of goldfish. They've actually drained ponds where goldfish have been in. They've killed everything, made sure the pond was completely empty. They refilled the pond. And what the goldfish do is they bury themselves in the mud when the pond is drained. And when the pond is refilled, they come back out of the mud and they're back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
Hardy little buggers.
There are lots of links here if anybody wants to go a little bit deeper into invasive species and some of the interesting things. And yes, absolutely. The perfect example is the Pacific salmon and trout that were introduced from our BC waters,
Not the Great Lakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Invasive, but more of an introduction. And at the end of the day, they're now well known to be in those bodies of water. So we can't necessarily call them an invasive species anymore because they have limits, and they're
beloved.
They're beloved, and seasons for them. So at the end of the day, now we're preserving that invasive species. So you're 100% right. So literally, when was trout and salmon introduced in the Great Lakes? Was it the 70s?
1980s. And they did it because the alewife is an invasive species. And there were so many alewife because there wasn't any predators, because the land prey had killed off most of the predator fish, large predator fish in the Great Lakes. So the alewife came in, there was nothing there to eat them. And they were dying on the beaches in shoals a meter deep. And they would just rot on the beach. They couldn't scrape them off the beach with front end loaders fast enough. And everyone who had beach property, shore property, they were all complaining, like, get this stinking mess off my shoreline. What the hell's going on? So the government said, let's bring in the coho and the chinook. They'll gobble these things up, and then in 5 years they'll all be eaten up, and the salmon will die because they won't be able to spawn anywhere. They won't go up the rivers because they're not native, right? And then the whole mess will be done. But the salmon stayed, and people fell in love with the salmon, so they just kept introducing them. And the alewife population didn't drop down that much. It has been reducing steadily. One thing that it has been good, though, is the alewife population did get the mercury under control for some reason, and the PCB. Somehow they absorbed that and got that out of the water system. So they serve some sort of purpose. Now they're still massive large schools, and it ticked up a little bit this year and the last year. So the number of salmon going into the Great Lakes this year is just about 1 million new salmon will be introduced into the Great Lakes or Lake Ontario this year. A 10% increase on the stocking because of the alewife population ticking back up a bit.
Well, I will say I love George's response.
What?
Once Berkeley makes a lure for the species, it is no longer invasive.
No comment. I cannot endorse a competitor's lure.
And Sean, 100%. Invasive goby has given us 8-pound smallies, so I'm kind of a fan. And I will be honest. I will say this, and I'm not afraid to. At the end of the day, yes, we were concerned about zebra mussels. Zebra mussels were something that could have some huge ramifications on our industry, and they still are. Yeah. Goby obviously were introduced to eradicate, or at least keep the numbers down. What we are finding is what they have done is they have been extremely prolific in their own right, and are now becoming a main forage for a lot of our sport fish that we target. So,
but they're toxic. They're not. The muskie are having problems with them, in the St. Lawrence River, because the gobies carry a lot of disease, and that's why we have some now fish die-offs again. Yeah. With the muskie, large muskie.
Yeah. So again, it can be good for the goose, not necessarily good for the gander, but there's a lot of interesting facts. Yeah, lots of interesting facts, Jay and George. So we love that. Please, we got time for a couple more.
Okay, I got one more, and this is in honor of your trip to the United States. So according to the American Sport Fishing Association, they've released some data on the size of the fishing tackle industry and the recreational industry in the United States. So they're saying about 59 million licensed anglers in the United States. I think we're just under 6 million here in Canada. So that makes sense. We're 1/10 the size, and we have 1/10 the number of anglers they have in the United States. They're almost reaching their 60 by 60 campaign. They wanted, in 60 months, they wanted to reach 60 million anglers to build it back up, and they're just about there. So that's pretty cool. But last year they spent 148 billion US dollars. I think that's 5 trillion Canadian. No, I don't know what it is, but it's probably 200 billion Canadian. I'm just guessing. But 148 billion dollars were spent by American recreational anglers on fishing tackle last year.
What?
Economic activity, man. It's a huge recreational fishing in the United States is 60 million people, 158 billion dollars of spending power. And listen to this. 900,000 jobs, just over 945,000 jobs are related to the fishing business in the United States. 945,000 jobs related to recreational fishing in the United States. And 1.8 billion was contributed to conservation. So when they buy tackle, a small tax is excised on the fishing tackle and collected, that is then used to go towards conservation. 1.8 billion last year of this tax money was collected from the sale of fishing tackle and went to conservation activities. That's the biggest contributor out of all the contributions made to conservation efforts. There's nothing as big as this $1.8 billion contribution by the recreational fishing tackle industry, the collection of that tax. Not the governments, not conservation organizations, not environmental groups, not anybody. That's just huge, right? $1.8 billion towards conservation. Huge. So that's what you're walking into, my friend. This is the big numbers, big show down in the States.
Well, listen, don't tell Jim I'm terrified to go now.
Jim's a big fish in any pond, so he doesn't have to worry about it.
I'll be able to hide behind him. I'll be good. I'm good. You know what, Lawrence? As I always say, dude, thanks so much for joining us. You are a wealth of information. Again, we look forward to your snippets, and of course, you keep us informed. That's one of the biggest reasons we have you. The second biggest reason is, you know what, dude, we just love you. You're awesome.
Oh, I love being here, man, and it's so much fun. So much fun to listen to you guys and to hear the comments and from the listeners, and it's so fantastic, you guys. Everyone's so positive. It's fantastic.
Right on, dude. Well, listen, we'll see you next Monday. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a ladies' night or not on Monday. So Juan might be coming by, but as I said, Jim and I will be back probably not too long after, or just before, I should say, the live on Monday. But we'll do our best to put something together because, as I said, there will be lots of cool things to share, lots of stories, I'm sure. But Lord, again, we look forward to seeing you next Monday. In the meantime, bud, you take care of yourself.
Yeah, safe journeys, my friend.
Thank you, sir. And right after this, we'll have Jason Barnucz. Here's a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
J-Dog's in the house.
What is happening, man?
Well, I'll tell you, are you worn out? Was that a busy show for you?
Yeah, I'm beat. We did so it's 4-day show. I had 2 days of just kind of hanging out, but I'm there the whole day. Like I could have left earlier both those days, and I ended up staying like almost to the wire each time. So, and then I worked the floor for 2 days helping out Pro Jays helping Jasper over there. So yeah, it was dude, it was a busy show. Like so the show last year got a little bad press because there was like really weird booths. Like there was like e-bikes, a lot of e-bike booths and stuff. Like they're just trying to fill the space. That happens at trade shows. Everyone knows when you have a trade show, you want to have as many vendors in there as possible. And you don't want to stray too far from fishing and hunting, but sometimes you have to fill those spaces. So last year, the Sportsman Show was kind of cobbled together at the last minute because of, dude, we still had mask restrictions and things like that. So fast forward 1 year, man, the show's back, baby. Like, and I'll tell you how I realized it was back. So I'm going to give a couple of shout outs in my segment tonight. So first of all, I got to hang out on Thursday a little bit with Chris McCoy and Ava Wickens from OWA. And Ava came running up to me at the Doss King kayak booth. We're hanging out with Darren. She came and gave me a giant hug because I never met her in person yet. Her and I have talked online for years. During the fish off, the casting directors, right? During the fish off, they'd send me their fish to, check the IDs and stuff and talk to them all the time. So we got to hang out. And then they actually pointed out to my wife, Heather, that there was this great deal on DSG Women's Apparel was having this great clearance booth. So we went to find it. Dude, it was like 2 miles from Darren's booth. Like it was the hunting section. I'm not knocking fishing, trust me. But the hunting area was impressive how big it was. Like the show was awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
Well, as I said, Jay, to get the kind of feedback that I heard about Thursday, and you don't usually hear Thursdays being busy. Usually that's the wind up, if you will, or it's the calm before the storm. But to hear the vendors, including yourself, tell me how busy it was on Thursday, that's awesome. That's great to hear that, it's back, that, the shows are returning. People are putting away their apprehensions about, gathering and everything else. And at the end of the day, we get back to a certain sense of normalcy, whatever that may look like. But it sounded like it was on full display on the weekend.
And one thing about the Sportsman Show, and this is no knocking to any of the vendors there, I don't want to take this the wrong way, but what I love about the Sportsman Show, it's for everybody. So the fishing show is a bit more of a buyer's show where people are looking at the new fishing products, the new rods, the new reels, the new innovations, and there's a little more money spent in terms of maybe higher end stuff. Okay. The Sportsman Show, what I love about it, there's the whole spectrum of sports people, hunters and anglers. And I meet lots of people who want to buy that high-end reel. I also met like kids who bought their first bait casting reel, who don't want to spend $400. They have like this one little guy came up to our booth. I was working with Curtis Cronkright, who's a Daiwa rep. So we're working the reel counter together. And this little guy comes up. I think he's 12 years old. He pulls a wad of 20s out of his pocket, like all crumpled up. And he's like, I'm here to buy my first bait caster. And Curtis and I were like almost in tears because that's such a cool thing, right?
Oh,
like he showed up with his lawn cutting money to buy his first bait caster, but we're not going to sell him the $400 bait caster. Like but he did understand the value of, and we know with bait casters, a little money spent goes a long way for the better quality components, right? Your better cast control, your better magnets, things like that. And so, we got him into probably what I'd say is a middle of the road bait caster that I'm sure will last that young man a long time. That's what the Sportsman Show is about. A lot of those types of memories where you meet people and they're just coming from all walks of life and they're there to talk about fishing. It's wonderful, man.
Wow, what a story. But it is, you're right. I mean, all these shows, that's just how it works. And Jim mentioned it during his segment that somebody came up and reminded him of years ago, a combo or a reel was handed to his boy, and they don't forget that. As I said, these young lads, they are impressionable minds, and we got to keep that in mind when we're at these shows to make sure that we're at our best and behaving properly and all that other one. But never, ever devalue or, second guess the value that you are providing someone when you give them a little bit of information, a pat on the back or a pump of the tires. It means the world. And, especially young people, they don't forget that stuff anytime soon.
Well, and even from the other side of it, like in terms of age, like, so I gave my kayak seminar every day. No, every day but Friday. I didn't do a talk on Friday. So I was there. I gave talks on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Dude, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, it was like I couldn't believe it that my seminar was standing room only. Like there was all the seats were full and it was full in the back. And like the Saturday the Sportsman Show is just something to behold. It is the probably, and you talked about that in Jim's segment. It's like the culmination of the year, like all the trade shows, all these things. But the Sportsman Show is the show to me. And I think I'm biased because that was my favorite show growing up. And going with Grandpa to the Sportsman Show was like a March break thing that I look forward to every year. But then you add to that the Saturday of the Sportsman Show. Now, if you don't like crowds, that's not the day you want to go.
Nope.
But I'll tell you, the Saturday is the day because it's awesome to see people there enjoying it.
Well, and again, like I was killing many birds, but the reason I came down Thursday, and Thursday was my go-to day, was because I had to hook up with Steph. But you know what? I went there thinking that I would have a chance to talk to you and a bunch of others. I did, which I was lucky, because if I had gone down during the day, and this is the other thing too, is as much as folks, we want to spread our time equally, and it's very, very difficult when you have so many people coming up to the booth. So at the end of the day, coming down on, if you're looking to chat, coming down on a less busy day is definitely what you want to do. I know it's not easy for everybody to get the days off and allot the time, but needless to say, I can imagine how busy you were, and it's great to hear it. Again, it gives me goosebumps to know.
Yeah.
You do these presentations at a show, at the Toronto Sportsman Show, Spring Fishing and Boat Show, doesn't matter. And here on Monday, you do it as well. And dude, I don't know, gives
like,
me
here. Get this. The kayak so what was awesome is working with Darren Ford at Doss King Kayaks. Okay, so on the Thursday of the show, Ron James, who's from Fish TV, he's the MC of the stage, the Fish TV Pro Seminar stage. And I'm coming up to talk about kayak fishing. He's like, Jay, did you bring a kayak? I go, dude, I can't bring a kayak like just in here. Like my kayak is at home and I'm not going to tow it here. He goes, well, can you get one? I'm like, probably. So I walk over to Darren King's booth, which is probably about 50 yards away. I'm like, Darren, can I borrow a kayak? And Darren's like, yeah, no problem. So we take a kayak over. On Sunday, while I'm giving my seminar, while I'm answering questions, he came over to get the kayak because he sold it. Like he was running out of kayaks at the Sportsman Show. Like that kayak sold while I was talking. Not even
a great kayak that you were using as a prop. Sold.
Yeah, it sold while I was talking about it. He came over to grab, because we had it comes in parts, right? Because you got the trolling motor that comes with it, the pedals that come with it, and we had to take it back to the booth because someone was taking it home. I can't even make this up.
Wow. That is insane and unbelievable. That's incredible.
Well, and what was cool about the kayak talk too was, so I'm not going to lie to you, I have not been kayak fishing for very long, but that's the premise of my talk, right? So don't be scared of kayak fishing. And I had a lot of great conversations with a lot of, middle-aged, even senior citizens who want to try it. They're a little nervous. But what was great too was I met some of the best kayak anglers in Ontario. They came up to me, and I'm not going to name any names, but I will say I was flattered to hear them come to me, shake my hand, and be like, dude, thanks for doing that. Thanks for getting the awareness out there, because we want the sport to grow. And not just, we're not talking tournaments. We're just talking about kayak fishing in general, grow the sport. And so many people are into it, are getting into it. And and then to see Doss King empty out their booth of kayaks was pretty cool. I don't think he had to take any home. They were all gone.
Incredible. Well, in tournaments too. I mean, you and I have talked as we go off air about the just the popularity of and if you want to fish in a tournament almost every day of the week during the summer, there's probably some online tournaments that are running. There's weekend. We have a charity tournament that's going to be coming up in May with OFC Nation that will allow kayaks and canoes. So, there's a lot of platforms and opportunities for these folks to get wet and perhaps maybe win a prize or two.
It's such a cool genre of fishing. It really truly is. And to see so many people getting more involved in it. I had great talks with a lot of the OWA members that were there all weekend hanging out. It was just really, really cool to be involved in that. And I was very lucky too. On Sunday when I came to the show, my seminar was at 12. And then after my seminar, I went and hung out in the Doss King booth and just taught kayak fishing with random people. And I met families from all over Ontario. I met a lot of people actually who live close to me who I didn't realize owned a kayak. And we got talking about sharing stories and sharing, where they like to go. And man, it was just a really, really good weekend. I got to go see, like people I don't see very often, like, everyone might know this. Like I help contribute to Ontario Door sometimes for articles, but I don't always see or meet the writers like in person. So, like who is there? Ray Blades, who's the editor for Ontario Doors. He was there. I got to shake his hand and say hi to him. I've known Ray for years, but we don't often see each other in person. Jason Ford, a buddy of mine from Caledonia, great steelheader, makes his own wooden nets. They're beautiful handmade nets. He was there presenting a steelhead talk. Just a lot of great people talking fishing, man. And it was just awesome to see them this weekend.
So now we have a little bit of a break until CanCast comes up, which I'm assuming you're going to take full advantage of. But when it comes to that time off, are you resting your legs or are you out shoreline?
There's a few things. I got a few irons in the fire. One thing I'm going to talk about. So I'm not going to the Classic, but I'm posting the link in the chat. This week is Bassmaster Classic week. Heather has confirmed that there will be chicken wings being cooked at our house on Classic Sunday. So we're having our own like Super Bowl party here on Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
Which is awesome. I didn't have to ask. I asked for chicken wings, and she's like, already got it. So I'm cooking chicken wings in the garage. We're treating it like the Super Bowl. But Trevor's working on a project. So his buddy Owen that was there with him, his kayak buddy there. So I talked them into doing how to kill time waiting for a trout opener because everything around here is closed. So they're going to try and go out and use their GoPros to try and get some underwater footage of steelhead in the local creeks. So that might be our little project this weekend. So we're going to go fishing without fishing rods. We're going to go fishing with a camera and not use our fishing rod. So I think that might be our little project this weekend because we're waiting for trout opener and we're a month away. We got another month to wait. So finding some way to kill time. So that's what we're going to work on this weekend.
Now, speaking of Bassmaster Classic, I know you dived headfirst into finding out everything you could about that potential unofficial smallmouth record that we announced. That was probably a couple months back, wasn't it? At least a couple months.
Yeah, a couple months back, actually. And I was chatting a little bit off and on with our good friend George, just like you and I have our, we have our little backstage chats before the show. So George and I like to talk fishing. So let me give you some info about that record smallmouth from Lake Erie, and the link I post in the chat. Everyone should go watch it later if you're interested, because they actually interview Big Water Fishing Podcast out of Ohio. They do a great job. They were the ones that kind of broke the lead. if anyone remembers the lead conspiracy that went on, Big Water kind of broke that to the world. But kudos to them. They've had a podcast going for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so this particular episode, they did a YouTube video talking with the biologists in Ohio DNR about the fish that was caught. And let me give you some of the quick stats on that fish. So that fish was 16 years old, which is a little old on the bass side of things. There's not too many fish that get up there, but it's not really old. It's just old. I've seen records of bass being up to 18, 19 years old in Northern Ontario. So 16 is definitely old, but it's just at the top end. The fish was thought at first to be a male because of its general body shape, ended up being a female. And to sex fish, you do have to conduct, you got to cut them open. You got to do, you have to do a thorough investigation to sex fish properly. So just everyone knows that. But there was no eggs developed, though, at the time. And its stomach was empty. But, its growth rate based on its length and its weight and its age, even though it was 10 pounds, it was not out of the spectrum of being a smallmouth bass. It was just on the high end of the spectrum. It wasn't a uniquely proportioned fish, which is kind of surprising, but that's what the data tells us. It needed to be kept to process it properly. And in the fish raid, the X-ray results of that fish and the molds they make of that fish will be used to do replica mounts of similar sized fish down the road if needed. So there's nothing was wasted on this fish, Scotty. Nothing.
And
is
that's
cool.
the way it's the way it should be. If we're going to keep a fish for the sake of science, that's exactly how it should be. If we're going to consume fish, we should try to consume as much of the meat as possible. Our I would say a good portion of our Asian community do exactly that, is they'll boil even the carcass down to a broth and create fish soup.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's others that do that as well that aren't Asian. But needless to say, when it comes to what is available to us, and that's why we talk about the MyCatch app and the science that it's able to share with you, your community, and how it is that you're trying to observe whatever science is being brought forth in surveys, creel samples, what have you. But the fact that this fish was only 16, and I want to say only, because a lot of us would have thought that it was well over 20. What is that now telling us about some of the smallmouth bass in Lake Erie?
I think there's a lot of big smallmouth out there that are just not being caught.
Yeah.
I really believe that. So George chimes in there. That's great. Oldest aged smallmouth bass in Ontario. And this is using otoliths. So let's go through this for a minute. So everyone, there's different ways to age fish. We can use scales. We can use spines. But as fish get older, the accuracy of aging a fish gets harder with scales and spines. For bass, for example, an otolith, which is a part of the ear bone, is used and it's very accurate. But the only way to get otoliths is to do a dissection and you have to kill the fish. However, if we don't age fish, we don't understand growth rates, we don't understand, it helps us manage the fishery. Now, in a population, we don't have to kill thousands of fish to get that data. We just have to, kill a few hundred of different size classes to look at growth rates. So this is how we understand how fish grow. And that fish was 16 years old. George is telling us that Drag Lake in Haliburton, there was a 24-year-old smallmouth from Drag Lake in Haliburton. And let's understand with fish are like people. Like Scotty, you and I are different. You might outlive me by 20 years, dude. Everyone's a little bit different. Fish are the same way, okay? And so there's going to be differences in that. There's no standard for how long fish will live. But definitely, those otoliths are so important. Even though we have to kill the fish, I always say at my work, we have to kill a few things to learn to save the whole population. Does that make sense? Like,
100%.
If we don't learn those things, we are losing an opportunity there. So
I'm glad George brings this in, because this would have been a question that I would have asked if I was in the audience. At what age do otoliths sort of take over and scales are no longer useful? Thanks so much for that, George. I thought it was closer to 8, so I'm glad about 8 years old is what I was told, but 6 when it comes to at least bass. That's interesting information.
And that's a pretty young bass at 6 years old in Ontario, right? Yeah. So it shows the importance of otoliths. And although we have to kill fish to do that, we know roughly how many fish we need to harvest to get that information without hurting the population. So
100%. And Jordan, Jordan, I'm glad Jim's not here to hear that. I find the older the bass get, the smarter they get.
So
there is an argument.
I think that I'm not sure. It's intelligence, but I'm not sure how you measure intelligence when you're a fish compared to a human. But definitely, older fish probably they're good at they're survivors. They are survivors. But I think in some cases, though, like let's think about Lake Erie. Let's think about smallmouth bass in Lake Erie right now, Scotty. And I think you and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
That's a huge, expansive lake.
Yep.
There's fish out there that are eating machines. Like there's literally, now you hear these stats about 100 gobies per square meter. Now I'm going to tell you, a lot of those gobies are like, geez, like I'm going to show you. A lot of the gobies are as big as that little plastic bait right there. Like they're that size. Now there are bigger ones, all right? But the reality is that there's fish out there just hoovering up gobies. They don't have to use as much energy anymore. They don't have to chase down smelt. They're hoovering up gobies. And now at the same time, I hear legends of giant smallmouth living with the walleye, suspended out over the depths, feeding on larger prey fish, right? So but how do you catch those bass? How do you target those giant bass? And someone will figure it out, but they're just hard to find. That's it. They're just hard to find.
No, it's true. And now, as I said, Corey is saying something about white sturgeon is over 1,000 years old now. Answer that one. Well, I will say it's not necessarily because they're smart, but I certainly don't want to say they're dumb. It's just an abundance of food. And the chromosomes, the genetic makeup to allow them to grow that big and for that long. That's pretty much how it's done.
And there's so many things that happen with fish that we don't understand why these things happen. They just do. So, for example, not every fish spawns every year, right? So not every bass spawns every year. Species like sturgeon, Corey, they don't even reach sexual maturity until like a decade or two, depending on the species. Like, can you imagine you've been around for 20 years before you even lay an egg, like as a fish like that? That's a huge length of time, right? So yeah, so it's totally a numbers game, and somehow the fish just make it work. Like, a fish will not sacrifice itself to reproduce if the conditions aren't right. And some fish just decide not to, and some fish do, and some fish maybe reproduce every year, and some will do every other year, and some may not reproduce for multiple years. 100%. It's just how it goes with genetics. So
great talk. And I will say that when it comes to the science of the evolution of fish, we are constantly learning. It always changes. We do get a benchmark, we get a bell curve, we get an average, but at the end of the day, when fish like that are caught, they blow open the door. And when I found out that it was only 16 years old, and I don't want to say only, but I was expecting that fish to be in its 20s, that sort of flipped the script on the age of smallmouth and the abundance of large fish in Lake Erie, as Jay suggested.
And that's the thing about fish, that they basically just keep on growing and reproducing, and that's it. They don't really have a drop in productivity. Like you'll often hear people say, oh, that fish would never spawn again, or that fish was on its last fins. Well, fish don't work like that. They basically, the biggest ones are the best ones. And then I think when it does happen for them, it happens fast. If it's by natural means, because it's those genetics that are so important, But your point about science, though, Scotty, and I think that over the last few years, especially us talking about this with our audience, I just think that there's so much that we've learned and we've shared. And it gets exciting too. We get talking about fishing and opportunities. Like, look at this coming year. There's going to be a bass season on Nipissing that's going to start in May. Why are we doing that? Well, it will impact the bass, but because of the great research that's been going on in Nipissing with George and his colleagues, that the bass population there is shown to be very healthy. Why are we opening up to bass? Well, one reason is to take pressure off some of the walleye. Lake Nipissing is it's a historical walleye place, for Canada. Like, at least for Ontario, and they need some help. And so if there's opportunities through science to better manage fisheries, we need to take those opportunities and do that.
100%. I couldn't say that any better, Jay. It's so true, and I make no mistake about it. That's exactly why.
Yeah. And you can be a climate change denier or not, but climate change is changing fish in Ontario. It's happening right now. So, and we're not talking global warming. Like, climate change is that's to me, that's the proper term to use, because it is changing our climate. Things are getting warmer, but we're seeing warmer winters, longer, hotter summers. All these things are impacting, and what fish benefit? Those fish that love warm water.
100%.
They love climate change. It's going to make, in a lot of places, and smallmouth, I think, we're going to have some serious smallmouth bass fishing in Ontario for years to come.
I could not agree more. And it'll be interesting to see where the next viable Ontario Canadian / record comes out of. Steve's got a great question just before we leave, and
Yeah.
I think this has a lot of debate depending on what side of the fence you're on. At the end of the day, Steve, as we mentioned with this bass, probably the eggs weren't that viable in that fish. But I will say this: I'm a big, firm believer that big fish produce big fish, and I would rather have 10% of the viable eggs from a big female than 100% from a smaller counterpart. Again, as I said,
The big thing about egg viability, Steve, is actually, again, I'm not, a true like bass biologist, but my guess is from other fish I've studied, egg size is so important. So, the bigger the fish, whether it's a walleye or a bass, even though the eggs are tiny, bigger fish produce bigger eggs. Bigger eggs produce larger fry. There's more nutrients in a bigger egg for more of a yolk sac.
Amen.
So larger fish, and Steve, we're talking like nanometers of difference. Like, we're not talking millimeters, nanometers. Like egg, literally, if you take a walleye egg, Scotty, and you take your calipers and you measure it, like it is tiny.
Yeah.
But the bigger eggs will produce better young, right? That is so important. And typically the bigger fish also spawn earlier for most species that we're talking about here. So the earlier they spawn, the bigger the eggs. That means that you're giving those young of the year fish more opportunity to grow. And if those fish can survive their first winter, which is the biggest hurdle for young fish in our northern climate, if they can do that, you've put them on the right page. There we go.
Yep. There it is. For any more information,
I'm not Googling that on the work computer, George. I'll save that for my.
Yeah, Lord only knows what's going to come up when you Google that.
That's right. I don't need to be in the HR office tomorrow.
That's right.
No, thanks, George.
Well, Jay, listen, as always, my friend, thanks for basically wearing our flag, wearing our colors, doing so in front of so many people at the Sportsman Show. Again, we can't thank you enough for being a part of our community, an integral part of our community, and of course, sharing an incredible wealth of knowledge that I'll tell you, I would be sitting here like this if it weren't for you three that join me every Monday. So hats off to you, Jay. Thanks so much.
Dude, thanks for the opportunity. And I'm going to say it before we sign off, dude, enjoy your week, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy your trip.
Yeah.
I've been there a dozen times to that event. I look forward to the next time I can go. It is, and of course you're going there for a reason that's larger than life itself, right? So enjoy it. I look forward to hearing about it. Now, next Monday, I said it might be ladies' night.
It might be. I haven't confirmed with Yvonne yet, but either way, we'll find out. I'll keep you guys up to date.
She had a great time. Listen, I met with Yvonne a couple times at the show. Her booth was busy. They had a lot of feedback from a lot of women anglers. So even if she doesn't have a guest, I'm sure she might have a good update from the Sportsman Show, because they've been collecting like data on membership and how they can better serve their members, I think. So I think she might have some good updates. I'm not going to give away any intel, but she had a very good show. So let's just see how you're feeling, dude, after your trip to Knoxville. And
this is true.
And,
I'll be ready to go, man. The show must go on. But Jay, thanks so much for that, dude, and everything you do. I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later.
Right on, buddy. And just before we bring up our good buddy Moose, here is just a snippet of what, I shouldn't say this. This is a promo that we're going to be using here at CFN, and I think it is apropos for anybody who has done exactly what this angler has done. Moose is in the house. How you doing, Moose?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Buddy, living the dream.
Who was that in the video? I didn't catch that.
It's a gentleman from Europe. I'm not 100% sure his name. And the way he does his Instagram, I couldn't pronounce it. I would butcher it if I tried. But it was the reason I saw it. It was just as soon as I saw the video, it clicked. Just somebody I follow on Instagram, and I thought, you know what? When he looks up and he stares, it's all I could think about is Thank God there's CanCast. Thank God there's CanCast. I replaced my rod at CanCast.
No, it's fantastic. That was pretty funny, actually. I thought for a second there was going to be our good buddy Red making a quick montage there, or a quick appearance.
It's funny you should say that. I was over with Red this past weekend, and I was honored to be asked to go over for his 50th birthday. It was a hoot. Mike and I joined each other as we watched a lot of his friends, that were extremely good. Karaoke is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Means it's huge. Very.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a gathering like that, we play cards. Might have a beverage or two, but they do karaoke, and I'll tell you, they're awesome at it. It was fun to see it firsthand.
I'd love to hear Red do karaoke. Now
he's like me; he can't sing that well, but I'll tell you, he's got some buddies that got some serious lungs on them. Holy smokes!
That's awesome.
So you just got back from the sunny south?
Yes, I spent just over a week in Cuba with the girls there, and some family and some friends. And dude, Cuba is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. The water, the fishing, the fishing. Where do I start? Honestly, it was a really good time. If I'm going to give you a quick tip, if you're heading to Cuba, prepare yourself. They were hit really hard with the pandemic. And as you know from before, Cuba's food on the resort wasn't top notch. It wasn't the best. It's definitely difficult now. So keep that in mind when you go down there. It's not that, they're trying to keep food away from you. They're struggling just as much as we were on the resort. And to put things into perspective, if they can't find food in the villages or little towns or areas, the government gives them a punch card, and that punch card allows them to go to, I guess, what they would consider City Hall, and they get 3 eggs and a loaf of bread a week. I've heard a month, but one guy confirmed that it was a week. But things are no bueno in Cuba. But with that being said, the resort was fantastic. The people were amazing. The fishing was incredible. The water was stunning. We all had a great time, but do keep in mind, food is scarce. So, it really, I felt bad for him, man. I really did. What we take we take food for granted, to be honest with you. Yeah. To go around the corner or call Uber Eats or do this, that, and the other thing. These guys are having a hard time growing tomatoes. The one guy tells me, he says, I grow tomatoes on my property, and by the time they're ready to eat, they've either been stolen, or as soon as they start to show and they're about this big, they're gone. So whether it's the animals or the people. Keep that in mind next time you go to Cuba. Things are rough when it comes to food, but everything else, they're in great spirits. And
the one thing I will say is anybody who has visited Cuba, they're very dignified, and they don't they don't get depressed about their wealth. They're not embarrassed by their poverty. At the end of the day, they are very dignified people down there. And I'm amazed that they can find happiness and solitude in a country that is in, it's in disarray. The world's in disarray, but they're feeling
for sure. They are definitely some of the happiest people that I've met. And that's why I continue to go back time and time again. Say hi to Miss Shannon. She just walked in with some food for me.
Miss Shannon,
food. To be completely honest, I've gone to Cuba now over 30 times. I'll go 2-3 times a year. I love it. It's inexpensive. It's gorgeous. The food is not that bad usually, but ever since the pandemic, this is my first time back to Cuba, and it was a rough one. But they're still happy people, and they don't complain. It is what it is. This is what we got. This is the hand that we were dealt, and we'll make the best of it. Now, the area that I did go to, Cayo Santa Maria, is known for very good food. Is known to be a little bit more high end. Whereas usually I'll go like to Veradero, off the plane, 10 minutes, you're at the hotel. Entertainment, food off the resort is fantastic, by the way. Yeah. Amazing. Not knocking any of the resorts, you know what I mean? But it's just one of those destinations where the people, the beaches, the entertainment, the music, the Latin culture, it's just it's amazing. Cuba will always have, a very special place in my heart, but they're struggling. They're struggling. I mean, I might have shed a couple pounds this week, but yeah, it was
a terrible thing. So what you're saying is, Scotty, get to Cuba, you lose all kinds of weight. Got it. Check.
absolutely. Well, listen, get to Cuba, grab a rod. You could fish anywhere in Cuba and catch incredible fish. We were catching barracuda on the beach. We were catching snapper off the side of the causeway. Like, we rented a car. I think it was like $50 for the day to rent a car. The girls and I just went out on an adventure, drove along the causeway, fished a whole bunch of bridges. Oh man, we got into some tarpon, some snapper, some fish. Couldn't even tell you what species they were. And then this giant bus with like 6 dudes pulls up, and I'm thinking we're fishing their spot, and they're gonna want us to leave. And they get out, and the one guy's scoping out the bridge, and another guy's doing this, another guy's doing that. And I was like, "Oh, do you want us to move?" Because I know that they go to these bridges to gather food and fish to feed their families. And he's like, "No, stay." So 4 of them got back on the bus. One guy stayed behind. And he stayed behind because we were there, and he stayed behind to help us out. He's like, you're fishing without any live bait. I have some live bait. It'll be a lot more fun for the girls. Hooked us up with some shrimp, and boom, it was on, fish after fish after fish after fish. And got talking to him, Google Translate back and forth because my Spanish is not very good. And he basically just said to his friends, like, I'm going to hang back with these guys and catch bait, basically, with the girls. And that's what we'll use tonight to fish for the big one. So on the left side of the causeway, the fish for bait. On the right side of the causeway, the fish for the giants after 6. And cool cat, super cool. Like, didn't have laces on his shoes, and like just total Cuban fisherman, like, smelled like fish. But super nice guy. I gave him a knife and scissors, and he was over the moon, and some lures and hooks and line. And then at the end of it all, I handed him a bunch of money, and this guy broke down. Like, just stood there. I get emotional just thinking about it. Just stood there and started crying. Like, it was and I wasn't expecting it. Like, you helped me out. We had a good time. You brought me shrimp. Here's some food, or here's some money to cover your costs of lures and shrimp. And because I know that stuff's not easy to come by. Like, you're 100%. Going on a hike to get live bait. So, and he broke down, and he was just so thankful. I was, "Oh, you have to come to my house, and I'll cook all the food. I'm fishing tonight at 6. Mañana, you come tomorrow, blah, blah, blah." We didn't get a chance to go to his house, unfortunately, but I'm sure it would have been cool. Maybe next time. I got his info, so I will definitely look him up. But it's just, if you're ever traveling to, any of these places, you can fish on the beach, as long as it's not populated with people, obviously. You can fish at any of the bridges. Ask the local taxi cab to take you to a bridge or a spot where he or she knows about any fishing. And a lot of the times the buffet will give you raw shrimp. So for $5, you can fill a cooler full of shrimp. And that's why Shannon can't eat shrimp anymore, because my Yeti cooler was full of shrimp a few years ago and just sat there rotting in my hotel room. But it worked. So there's a quick tip for you.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, and Steve, I completely agree. There's not enough moose in the world. But yes, you never underestimate the effect that you're going to have on an individual, especially in a situation like that. I know you and I have talked about it and joked about it. The old Rob Ford thing that I got into when I was down in Florida. It is springtime, early springtime, Florida, very much like Moose just described. And I would come to the pier with my shorts and my Crocs on. And after a couple beers, they all said, "Do you mind me asking a personal question?" I said, "No, well, it depends on how personal it's going to get. Any chance your name's Rob Ford?" I said, "I don't know if I feel like I've been patted on the back or thrown to the wolves." But anyway, needless to say, he said, "Well, because you see the rest of us dressed like it's winter, and then you come out here with your white legs and your Crocs and whatever." And it was a hoot. So I know exactly what you mean. But at the end of the day, throw that fish in the middle of the pier and you say, "Hey, listen, anybody that wants this, you take it home," and it means the world to people.
It does. It really does. And I mean, with the language barrier, like, we spoke the same language. We talked hooks, we talked knots, we talked techniques. he hand lines. That's what they do out there, is they hand line everything. And I gave him my surf rod, my surf cast rod, and I gave him the Spheros. And he was just like, "You got to be kidding me. Like, this is just a completely different world to him." And I said, "Do you feel the bite?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, it's, they don't do it. He's like, I've never used a rod. He's like, you touched a rod, but I've never actually used one to go fishing. So that was kind of cool too, right? So it was totally unexpected. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, let's not take what we've got here for granted, because they travel hours to get to a tiny little tackle shop that doesn't have much tackle. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to me. When I opened that box up, like my tackle box, whether it was at the airport, the hotel, or along the side of the highway, the minute that box was opened up, you could just hear it in their voices. Oh, and everybody calls everything Rapala. Everything's Rapala. You know what I mean? Oh, what do you use here? Rapala. I'm like, oh, this one? I'm like, that's not a Rapala. Yeah, no, it's a Rapala. Sure, man. That's all they know, right? So the new World Minnow there with the little quivering, shimmery thing on the inside, it blew his mind. He was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "Amazing! It's so good." Obviously not in English, in Spanish, but it was very cool. And then we got a chance to go out in a boat. I took my cousin out, and we went with Captain No Talk. This guy just no talkie at all. And I was like, "Are you okay, my friend?" He's like, "I'm cold." He's like, this is my winter. And here I am, just like you, in shorts and a tank top.
Yeah.
And he's bundled up like he's about to go skiing. And like he had 3 layers on, and then he puts on this like rubber rain suit. And I'm like, dude, I'm sweating just watching you. Yeah. But it was very cool. It was very cool.
Well, we will be in some warmer temperatures, not necessarily Cuba-like, but I hear the temperatures down in Tennessee are going to be quite warm, at least for us Canadian folk. So I'm looking forward to all the snickering. I'm really looking forward to Moose being the only one in the parking lot that has a walleye license plate. I can't wait for that. That's going to be extra special, of course. Me and my counterpart, if he's there, Scott Martin. Buddy, you can't thank me enough. I put on all this weight so that you would look far prettier than I. So again, you owe me big time. But enough of that. We will be getting down and hopefully running into one another at the Classic down in Knoxville, Tennessee, with our good buddy Big Jim and a whole host of other characters that are going to be joining us. But after that comes CanCast. Tell us a little bit about what we're looking forward to.
It has been confirmed. Last time I was on, we discussed a giant announcement. Sorry, it's not COVID. So big announcement was about to drop, and it was on the fence. We weren't really sure, and then Kyle made it all happen. I can't tell you how hard Kyle and Leanne have been working. And he's got a full-time job too. So my hat's off to this guy. But the announcement is, if you go online and you pre-purchase your ticket, you will be entered to win $1,000 a day in fishing tackle for the next 10 days, starting on the 23rd. There it is, right there. So we did post it early just to see if people would pay attention, and they were. So $1,000 a day for 10 days. And then at the show, it'll be a $5,000 giveaway. $5,000, not dollars, $5,000 in fishing equipment. So $15,000 in tackle from some of the manufacturers that are there at the show will be given away in total. 10 lucky winners. So all you got to do is go and purchase your ticket online. If you click anywhere on the site is now up to date. Anywhere on the site, you click purchase ticket, you purchase your ticket. Keep an eye out on the CanCast Facebook page. So make sure you like and follow the CanCast Facebook page. Make sure you like and follow CanCast on Instagram. And then head over to YouTube, because they also have the CanCast podcast. Hit subscribe, and they'll be announcing the winners. Obviously, they're going to contact you as well, but it's all going to be based on ticket numbers. So do not miss these opportunities. 10 lucky people before the show will win $1,000 of fishing tackle. It's going to start on the 23rd. So March 23rd, it will start, and it's going to go all the way to April 1st. And then at the show, there'll be another $5,000 worth of goods to be given away. Tickets are cheap. They're not expensive. Kids under 12, I believe, are free. Anybody and everybody will be at this show. It will be busy. It is a one-day shootout. It is fishing, and more fishing. And I can't tell you guys how important it is to buy your tickets early, buy your tickets ahead of time. Not that there's going to be a lineup, because that issue has been solved. The lineup issue is no longer a thing. I mean, you go to a Peterborough Pete's game, there's 3,000-4,000 people wanting to get in. They're in within 10-15 minutes. So it's going to be the same thing here. But it is much, much easier when you buy your tickets online, because it enters you into a draw to win $1,000 a day.
Wow. So Richard is asking how much tickets are. Dave Nelson just answered $15. And Moose has also said that there are parameters in which the tickets are free. That's where you need to go to get your tickets. Again, pay for them prior to getting to the show. As Moose has just mentioned, there is lots of things that will benefit you from having that sooner than later. Of course, one of the biggest reasons is there is $1,000 a day giveaway. That is absolutely phenomenal in itself. But wow.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Everybody's stepped up. All the vendors, over 150 vendors at the show. Everyone that he presented it to was like, yep, done. Here's stuff, here's this, here's that. So there's a shit ton of support behind it. Excuse my French. But yeah, it is going to be one hell of a show. We will be there as well with some of our new 2023 apparel, some of our new hats, our new hoodies, our new t-shirts. And there may be a CanCast discount, just maybe. On top of all those wonderful giveaways, to encourage some traffic and drive some traffic to the website, for those who are going to purchase a ticket online, I'm going to throw in a rod and reel from our good friends at Shimano. So, boom, drop the hammer. So if you purchase a ticket online between now and the 1st, I'm going to give Kyle a rod and reel combo. I'm gonna give it away. Kyle's gonna tell me who the winner is, but I'm gonna give away a rod and reel combo. Hey, politics, right? Shimano, Daiwa. It is what it is. He works for Daiwa. Listen, we're just gonna call it how it is. I'm not gonna give him the rod because it'd be weird. I guess the Daiwa guy giving another guy at Shimano. It is. I'm giving away a rod. All right. So go to the website, buy your ticket. The person who wins on April 1st will also win a Symmetry rod and reel combo from OFC Nation.
Sweet. And this, of course, and you're going to be coming on here again next Monday, as well as the Monday leading up to the show, if not after the show. But we will be talking, of course, you will have the last chance at winning a Symmetry combo at the booth. Now, I don't know how exactly we're going to be giving that away, whether it's going to be with the wheel. But we did so at the Ottawa show. Of course, Andy Locke found the key, took home a Symmetry. We've had a winner prior to Andy as well. So we're looking for a third at the Peterborough show. So we look forward to seeing you at CanCast for your chance to grab a key, win your Symmetry, and a chance at what, Moose? What's the combo giveaway?
The grand prize at CanCast, the grand prize rod and reel giveaway will be a Zodius and a Vamford. It can't be beat. Can't be beat. No. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen, played, touched them. They are absolutely incredible. I was tempted to take one with me, but I didn't want to expose it to salt water. Yeah, and the other reason is my Spheros can't be beat. That's that. So I did a quick little thing. So if you guys go to my Instagram, you can. I talked about the rod and reel combo that I travel with and what works best for me, and whether it's surf or bridges or long rod and short rod and power rod. But at the end of the day, I didn't have the heart to take the Vamford to salt water. It's just
you did the right thing, Moose.
It's no bueno. No, I'm saving up for that. I'm saving up for that saltwater Stella.
Yes, Kyle, you are a prize, my friend, and thanks for all your hard work that you do, pumping the tires of a lot of folks that are very deserving, including those who will be at your show. That kind of hard work, I've always said, will be always rewarded if you're a good person, and Kyle is definitely one of those. Mark Hunter and Sean McCall, who are his right and left-hand man, are doing some wonderful work as well, and do so when it's time to set this show up, man.
Yeah. Dude, behind the scenes, the lady that makes it all happen. Because let's face it, it's always the lady behind the scenes that makes sure that everything is in line. And Leanne's definitely worked her back off, and Kyle's worked his back off. So if you guys get a chance to, even share this video, and if you mark, the timestamp, I can't remember what the timestamp was, but that whole spiel about everything that's happening at CanCast, the $1,000 a day, the 12 children under 12 for free, everything, all that everything we just talked about. Send it out to people who you think will be interested in coming to the show, because it's going to be a good one for sure. But with me coming back next week and the following week, I don't want to get ahead of myself. And I know we discussed this whole Monday night thing, come on at the end and discuss some upcoming events. So CanCast is the next upcoming event. But along with that, and I'm going to put this out there because the information is going to be posted online soon, is the OFC Nation Charity Tournament. In conjunction with the CSFL's Pike Lunker Bowl. So if you're interested in joining us for this OFC Nation charity tournament, it is going to be a pike tournament. It is going to be in May. It is going to be on the 20th, I believe. So more information coming soon. Send myself, Jeff, or Scotty a message. It's going to be a boatload of fun. The way it's going to work is there's going to be 2 tournaments combined into one day. So if you choose to do the OFC Nation charity tournament, I think it's $75 right now. No, $60 at the show, $75 after, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
I believe so. That's how we worked it out, which also includes a lunch, so some food, some grub, and a bunch of giveaways. And that, our tournament is going to be based on length, so the length of your pike.
Yeah.
CSFL will be there as well, and their tournament is based on weight. So at the CSFL tournament, it's $177 plus taxes, which brings you up to $200. The bonus with that is you can have 3 people to a boat. So 3 people to a boat, you can go in, weigh your fish, and then you can measure your fish and submit it to the OFC Nation charity tournament. 2 tournaments, 1 day, 1 stage, 1 mic, 1 sound. Boom.
Now, what are the chances, Moose, that we'd be able to do both at the same time?
You can. Absolutely, you can do that. Absolutely, you can. You can enter both tournaments. So $275 for both tournaments, food included. Or if you choose just the OFC Nation charity tournament, you can do that. Or if you choose just the CSFL Lunker Bowl, that is also okay. We are A-okay with that. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. We do it every year, and I usually do it with Colby and one other person. Last year I did it with Shannon and Colby. It was so much fun, man. I think we actually, thank God we had Shannon in the boat, because we did win, I think it was the second hour for biggest fish for second hour. So
yes,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. The OFC draw or tournament will end at 4 o'clock. CSFL ends at 3. OFC will end at 4, and it's just based on length. So the OFC Nation one is not an hourly tournament. The CSFL one is an hourly tournament. So every hour, if you think you have the biggest pike, you can bring it in and weigh it. If you're the biggest pike for that hour, you could win up to 500, up to 1,000, depending on how many boats we get out there. But it's a Lunker Bowl tournament. It's a load of fun. You guys definitely don't want to miss it. So those are the 2 events that I wanted to fill you in on, and I will continuously fill you in on, random events and random trips and random things. Hopefully every Monday night, if this continues according to plan, I'm going to come on here every Monday night, and we're going to talk about random events, random trips. It's just going to be random stuff with Moose.
Random with Moose. Love it, buddy. Listen, I know you got a lot of laundry to get to. You're probably still jet lagged or you've got your airline feet underneath you. We'll give you a little bit of time to take a rest because there is no rest for the wicked. You're going to be heading down to Tennessee probably Wednesday or Thursday. When are you leaving?
I fly out Thursday morning, so I will see you down at Big Jim's big announcement on Thursday afternoon. But Scotty, thank you very much for everything you do. Boys, if you're still watching, I love all the info. Lawrence, Jay, everyone, all you guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you very much, Scotty. We'll see you soon.
Right on, dude. You take care, Moose. Thanks for coming on.
Ciao.
Peace. Well, there it is. Another show in the books. Thanks to all of you who joined us. Not to mention our featured guests, Big Jim, Lawrence, and Jay, as Moose had mentioned. And, of course, Moose coming on here to talk about CanCast. Kyle, it was great to see you in the comments and in the audience chiming in as well. Again, that is going to be the next big event after the Classic down in Knoxville, Tennessee. Really looking forward to it. Steve and Walter will be holding down the fort at CFN. I know a lot of our other legacy members will be chiming in as well. But needless to say, traffic to OFC Nation, traffic to CFN, we can't have enough. Of course, it's all about positivity. It's all about pumping everybody's tires. And you know what? If you can leave a thumbs up or a positive comment, we really appreciate that because that's what we're trying to do is build a positive angling community. Each and every angler by angler that we join, reach out to, or profile. At the end of the day, if you have a photo edit, please message us at the Canadian Fishing Network Facebook page. Either Walter, myself, or Steve Shaw, likely Steve, will do an edit for you and feature you on our page. That's what we love to do. That's what we're here to do, and we love every minute of it. Well, I can't say enough about all of you wonderful folks. Again, thanks so much for joining us each and every Monday. It means the world to have you. Love you. Take care. Stay healthy. And we'll see you next Monday. Peace. Take it away, Dave.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must